Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in the Clown Decade and yet another day where I'm going to avoid the big geopolitical actions going on in the Ukraine right now. Instead we are looking at the other direction across the Atlantic over in the US. Because in June of 2021, during Joe Biden's first year as president, he had this to say about his nominee for the new Justice of the Supreme Court.
You have said you would put a black woman on the court should a spot open up, but there are groups calling for you to release a list of specific names you'd put on the court. Are you going to do that?
We are putting together a list of a group of African American women who are qualified and have the experience to be in the court. I am not going to release that until we go further down the line of vetting them as well.
So somehow I've only found the 20 seconds of Joe Biden where he's saying something that makes any sense. Unfortunately, he completely agrees that he is going to make the next Justice of the Supreme Court a black woman. But don't worry, he's still going to vet them and find the best. Why he can't just do that with absolutely everyone, no matter their race and gender within the US? I mean, I do know. It's because this American government is run at the behest of the woke cathedral, basically. And we'll get into more of that a bit later. But Joe Biden decided that yes, he is going to definitely have a black woman as the next Justice of the Supreme Court. And he did announce the Supreme Court nominee about a month ago at the end of February. And it's this woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson. On February 25, 2022, President Joe Biden nominated Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to become the 116th Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Luckily, they've got a bit of a profile on her. Since Justice Stephen Breyer announced his retirement, President Biden has conducted a rigorous process to identify his replacement. President Biden sought a candidate with exceptional credentials, impeachable character, and unwavering dedication to the rule of law. And the president sought an individual who is committed to equal justice under the law and who understands the profound impact that the Supreme Court's decision have on the lives of the American people. So, that's all a lie. Well, it's not all a lie. That's hiding the main fact of this, which is that, look, he was clearly after someone who fit the bill for the wokies. He was after a black woman, but that's not mentioned anywhere here. Because you put that on official an official White House page, I can imagine that the Republicans are going to explode over that, so they've managed to avoid that. But it goes on. This is why the president nominated Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve as the next justice on the Supreme Court. Judge Jackson is one of our nation's brightest legal minds and has an unusual breadth of experience in our legal system, giving her the perspective to be an exceptional justice. And now, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure she's had a great career as a judge in different parts of the legal system within America. And she might even fit the role quite well. The issue is that she has been specifically picked out as a black woman by President Biden. And the problem with that is that, yes, she might be very good for the job, but there might be a white woman who's better, there might be a white man who's better, there might be a black man who's better. But they've been brushed aside for this woke agenda that clearly this American government is pushing forward. Let's hope he doesn't get elected in for a second term. So now that Biden has nominated her, there is now a process where Ketanji has to have a multiple-day hearing to see if she is a good candidate to become the next Justice of the Supreme Court. And, well, let's just say day one had some blunders. This one being one of the funnier ones.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yes, the woman who the White House says has one of the brightest legal minds in America apparently can't even give you a basic definition. And why can't she give you a basic definition?
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the
biologist.
meaning of the word
So for those who missed it, she said, no, I can't give you a definition in this context because I'm not a biologist. Despite the fact that every dictionary in the world, none of which have been informed by biologists, all define woman to be an adult female human being, or basically the same thing but reworded. And even from a quick Google dictionary search, whatever you call this, every single variation on the word woman in every single way refers to an adult human female in some way. You don't need to be a biologist to know what a woman is, in the same way you don't need to be a vet to know what a dog is. So yes, this is indeed a very stupid answer, and she should be rather embarrassed to have this day one blunder of not even being able to define what a woman is. Though it is very funny because saying I'm not a biologist implies that basically to be a woman there is some underlying biology there. So she's going against the woke orthodoxy here anyway, which is just hilarious.
The meaning
Biologist.
of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
Again, this is hilarious again. This basically means that absolutely every definition of every single word can be decided by her. What she is basically saying here is that no word has meanings. Literally, the word woman is one of the most simplest words that you can think of. It's a 5-word definition, for God's sake. And so Ketanji is here saying, oh, one of these simple words, well, if someone comes to the court and there's a dispute over the meaning of this word, well, I listen to arguments and I decide what the definition is. Which, as far as I knew, that's not what lawyers and judges do. They only care how the law is defined. They don't care how individual words are defined. And if she can't even define what a woman is, I mean, why is she even up as a nominee as a black woman? She can't even define herself as a woman. And if she does, then she has a definition for it. This is all over the place.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
Yeah, basically. It's as Douglas Murray says in The Madness of Crowds. There are things that we have known about for millennia. We have known what a woman is for millennia, but because trans women came about, well, I was going to say a decade ago. Obviously, we've had trans women for longer than that. However, it has become common now in woke circles and woke orthodoxy to basically say, well, a woman is a woman. Anyone can self-identify as a woman. Which, if you said that 20 years ago, people will have laughed you off the stage. But now we're clearly at a point where someone who is supposed to have one of the smartest minds in the country cannot give you this trivial and fundamental definition because basically she's scared. She's scared of what the woke crowd are going to do because she was appointed by a Democrat president and the Democrats are quite frankly the party of woke. So she's got to be careful not only to get this job on the Supreme Court, but she's also got to be careful with the woke crowd who are going to try and cancel it if she says a woman is a biological human female. And obviously these questions are being asked because there is a massive political debate going on worldwide really, but it's even further ahead in the US than any other country about transgenderism. And especially because if trans women, as I went through last week, can be involved in women's sports, well, what's to stop them from being protected under the law as a woman, as seen in this next clip?
The right of a transgender woman to compete in women's sports. Do you think Congress, the people ought to get to decide that through Congress, or the judge can just find it as an unenumerated right, a penumbra of the Constitution?
Well, Senator, that the topic that you raised is something that is, as you say, a hot topic today and could certainly be litigated.
Again, she's walking a tightrope and it's really funny to watch. She just doesn't give straight answers on this topic. It's just, yeah, you know what, you're right, that is a hot topic. And it's like, okay, but do you think it's up to Congress or the judges to decide whether she should be allowed in these sports or not? To which my answer would just be, well, it's up to the organisers whether they decide it or not. And then give it 2 years, if that, and then they'll probably revert the decision because it'll turn out that trans women are just winning everything. Depending if wokeness can even last that long. But yeah, she's just not good at giving answers on this topic.
So I'm not in a position to say more about whether or not it's actually one of the unenumerated rights.
Well,
I mean, if she finally gets to it, she just says, well, I'm not in a position to say whether it can be based on the Constitution or not. And she probably is, but don't just say, oh, it's a hot topic, therefore I can't say whether it is that or not. You need to give a better reason than that. Something like, well, it's an ongoing debate and I'm not that involved in it. That would have been better than just saying it's a hot topic. Which, to be fair, that could be what she means by a hot topic, but it's quite hard to say.
I don't want to ask you how you'd rule, but would you have any problem saying, okay, if that case that is litigated, saying this is a political question? Whoa, stop. I'm staying in my lane. Congress needs to decide this case. The people need to decide that through their elected representatives.
Well,
Would that be appropriate?
Well, respectfully, Senator, that is a decision. In other words, you say, I'm not asking you to decide it, but in every case, the determination about whether or not something is a political question or whether or not the court has or has not jurisdiction is an issue for judges, and so I'm not able to speak to it.
Okay.
And yeah, I think she gives a fair answer at the end. Because I just want to show you, look, she is smart. I just don't think she's giving good answers at the moment. But then again, I never thought she'd give answers that I'd find satisfactory because she's been chosen by a woke government. And she can't even tell you what a woman is, but quite clearly here, when they are talking about the rights of women, she knows what everyone means by woman. And she understands why the definition is a hot issue. So why she couldn't give a good definition before is beyond me. But luckily Ted Cruz, of all people, was allowed to come forward and really push her on this subject.
But
let me ask, under the modern leftist sensibilities, if I decide right now that I'm a woman, then apparently I'm a woman. Does that mean that I would have Article 3 standing to challenge a gender-based restriction?
Senator, to the extent that you are asking me about who has the ability to bring lawsuits based on gender, those kinds of issues are working their way through the courts, and I'm not able to comment on them.
See what I mean about avoiding the question? Which I suppose is Ted Cruz's fault for having a hypothetical that's directly linked to ongoing court cases. But the spirit of the question here is, do you think trans women are women? So naturally she's just trying to avoid the question as much as possible, and that becomes clearer when Ted Cruz clarifies his question.
Okay, if I can change my gender, if I can be a woman, and then an hour later, if I decide I'm not a woman anymore, I guess I would lose Article 3 standing. Tell me, does that same principle apply to other protected characteristics? For example, I'm an Hispanic man. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Would I have the ability to be an Asian man and challenge Harvard's discrimination because I made that decision?
Senator, I'm not able to answer your question. You're asking me about hypotheticals.
See, this answer really, really annoys me. She was answering hypotheticals throughout the day. That's why I put the example in before, where the guy was asking about transgender athletes, and he's saying, hypothetically, would you make this decision or another? And she just said, well, I can't tell you. I can't make that decision, I'm afraid. That's answering the hypothetical. And now Ted Cruz is given a hypothetical, she's saying, can't answer hypotheticals. And it's like, what? So Ted Cruz pushes this because it's a very good point.
Well, I'm asking you how you would assess standing if I came in and said, I have decided I identify as an Asian man.
I would assess standing the way I assess other legal issues, which is to listen to the arguments made by the parties, consider the relevant precedents, and the constitutional principles involved, and make a determination.
And so, yeah, she just goes back to standard answer of, I shall follow precedent. Which, again, is missing the spirit of the question, which is that, can you change your race? Because clearly, if she agrees that you can change gender, why can't you change race? But naturally, she has to avoid that question, because if she answers one way or the other, she's going to massively annoy one side, and to be honest, she's probably more on the woke side. Luckily, Ted Cruz really is on a warpath against this particular nominee, probably because, given that she has been nominated by the Biden presidency, she's going to be mental. But she's clever enough not to give straight answers. So Ted Cruz also brings up the topic of critical race theory in schools. Now, according to the New York Times, Ketanji is on the board of trustees for a particular school somewhere in DC, I think. And so Ted Cruz brings up that CRT is taught at the school in a rather hard-hitting way.
If you look at the Georgetown Day School's curriculum, it is filled and overflowing with critical race theory. They include literally stacks and stacks of books, and I'll tell you two of the ones that were most stunning. They include a book called Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi.
Yes, well, I'd hope for most of my audience I don't have to tell you how nuts Ibram X. Kendi is. But yes, this book is essentially teaching white children that, yes, they are implicitly racist, and they need to actively be anti-racist, which in Ibram X. Kendi's mind means you need to discriminate against white people because they deserve it.
This is a book that is taught at Georgetown Day School to students in pre-K through second grade, so 4 through 7 years old. Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
I just cannot believe that this is actually... A Supreme Court nominee is being asked this question. Do you think it's okay to tell 4 to 7-year-olds that they are racist? It's just outstanding where the discourse has gone in America. But anyway, let's hear her answer.
Senator, I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe in any of that.
So she seems to be against CRT, though I think she is, this is the problem with the Mott and Bailey. She seems to be retreating to the Mott because she is in the middle being scrutinised by a bunch of Republicans, and if she in any way supports CRT, then yeah, she'd be screwed. Which is why I don't think she answered the question properly. So what Ted Cruz asked is, do you think that this should be taught in schools that babies are racist to 4 to 7-year-olds? She then replies saying, I don't believe that kids should be made to feel X, Y, Z. Not that they shouldn't be taught something, but that they shouldn't be made to feel something. So she kind of sidestepped the actual question and gave an answer that sounds good on paper, but when you listen to what she said, you can make pretty uncharitable interpretations here.
Are you comfortable with these ideas being taught to children as young as 4 in respect to the first book, as young as 8 and 9 in respect to the second book?
Senator, I have not reviewed any of those books, any of those ideas. They don't come up in my work as a judge, which I'm respectfully here to address.
I mean, she's just arguing that she's ignorant here, which I don't really buy. You're on a board of trustees. You're going to have an idea of the curriculum, and you could just go as far as saying, look, I saw anti-racism in the curriculum. I assumed it meant X, Y, Z. I'm a judge. I have a lot of other things to do. I assumed it was okay. I didn't realise that they were teaching this. And that kind of implies you're against it without saying you're actually against it. But she doesn't say that here. She just says that she's ignoring it. But at the same time, she seems to be answering everything else with, she understands the debates that are going on these days. So it's kind of hard to believe this ignorance, to be honest. But maybe I'm being rather uncharitable there. Who knows? Though now we get to a point where I think even my most charitable interpretations are only going to appear awful. Because now we get on to the issue of the left being pedos. And I'll let Ted Cruz take it away yet again.
Every other case, United States versus Chazen, the prosecutor asked for 78 to 97 months. You imposed 28 months. 28 months is a 64% reduction.
And just to save time, the rest of what Ted Cruz is saying here goes on like that. In which cases, for prosecuting child pornographers or people watching child pornography or anything like that, when she was put on as the judge and she's giving sentences out, she was given recommendations and guidelines for how many months they should be put away in prison. And in every case, she went below the guidelines, showing quite drastic leniency for child pornography cases. Yeah, that isn't a good look, no matter which way you spin it. And Ted Cruz just absolutely verbally slaps her at the end of it.
Now, you said you made sure the voice of the children was heard. Do you believe in a case like United States versus Hawkins, where the prosecutor asked for 24 months and you sentenced the offender to only 3 months? Do you believe the voice of the children is heard?
Yes, you heard that right. Child pornography case, prosecutor recommended, 24 months in prison, 2 years. And she decided to only give him 3 months. Now, bear in mind, I don't know the details of this particular case. I don't know how you can be in any way involved in child pornography and have the state prosecutor only put you away for 2 years. But either way, that is an eighth of the recommended sentence. This is drastic leniency. I've never seen anything like this before.
When 100% of the time you're sentencing those in possession of child pornography to far below what the prosecutor's asking for?
Yes, Senator, I do.
I mean, man, just for context, I cut out about 2 minutes worth of Ted Cruz going on there. And basically Ted Cruz is saying that she's reluctant to put nonces away for as long as they deserve, and she's just basically said back, Chad, yes. I mean, it just proves Sargon right yet again.
The left are pedos, the left are pedos, the left are pedos, pedo. That's all people should hear when they think of left-wing politics. And there's so many examples of this.
Just yet another example of someone on the left wing being very reluctant to care for the children. So naturally this topic was really pushed on her, because if you're being really lenient to a particular crime that is obviously incredibly abhorrent, yeah, damn right you're going to get questioned on it. So here's her explaining why she was so lenient on nonces.
As you said, the guideline was based originally on a statutory scheme and on directives, specific directives by Congress at a time in which more serious child pornography offenders were identified based on the volume, based on the number of photographs that they received in the mail. And that made total sense.
All right, fair enough. If you receive more child pornography, you probably should be put away for a longer time. Yeah, completely agree.
Before, when we didn't have the internet, when we didn't have distribution, but the way that the guideline is now structured, based on that set of circumstances, is leading to extreme disparities in the system because it's so easy for people to get volumes of this kind of material now by computers.
So according to her argument, it no longer should be based on the amount you've actually received. It should be based on how easy it is for you to distribute or get child pornography, which in my mind is just a really stupid argument to make. I don't care how easy it is. If you are that addicted to seeing kids being put in horrible situations, I don't care who you are. You need to be put away, purely based on the number. I don't care how easy it is to get on the internet. Now, if she said, oh, I don't know, let's say some of these people accidentally found child porn through a virus or something, which I don't think even is the case, but hypothetically, if that were to happen, let's be really lenient to them. That, even those that found it and reported it, they definitely shouldn't go away. But it appears in all of these cases, these paedophiles were going out trying to get these images to, well, it's not worth going into. The point is that they intentionally wanted this illegal material. So why would you be more lenient if they got it through the internet, if they got it through the post? Why does it matter? They shouldn't be doing it. They need to be punished. And I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are saying, well, they deserve the death penalty. So, try and push that argument all you want. I'm not going to make it here.
So it's not doing the work of differentiating who is a more serious offender in the way that it used to. So the commission has taken that into account, and perhaps even more importantly, courts are adjusting their sentences in order to account for the changed circumstances.
So what's really weird to me is that she's putting the blame on other people. So it's like, oh, the courts are recommending less than the guidelines. But the thing is that she's then going even lower than what's been recommended to her. Because on Ted Cruz's little whiteboard thing, if there was ever a recommendation that was lower than the guidelines, it wasn't that much lower. It'd be like the minimum's 18 months, but it was recommended 72 months. But then Ketanji would go even lower than that and have like 50 months or something like that. There's a clear disparity here, so you can't just blame this on the courts. This is your decision. Needless to say, though, this issue obviously went on into day 2, in which Lindsey Graham says what we're all thinking.
We are going to treat a person who's distributed 1,000 a lot worse, because that shows that this person is really engaged in this really horrible behavior. In comes the internet. On the internet, with one click, you can receive, you can distribute tens of thousands. You can be doing this for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden, you are looking at 30, 40, 50 years in prison.
Good.
Cut
Good.
I understand.
Absolutely
Senator, but what
good.
we're
I hope you
trying
are.
to do.
Good.
Allow her to finish, please.
I hope you go to jail for 50 years if you're on the internet trolling for images of children and sexual exploitation. So you don't think that's a bad thing? I think that's a horrible
That's not
thing.
what the witness said, and she should be allowed to answer this question once and for all. Senator.
Yes, I completely agree with Lindsey Graham. But even her argument, it's just stupid. Did you listen to that argument? It's like, oh, so someone's distributing physical photos and 1,000 of them, right? We're going to treat them worse by someone who can click once and distribute tens of thousands all over the world. Why would you treat the guy who, had 1,000 physical copies and was distributing them physically? Why is that worse than the tens of thousands all over the world? Obviously, the tens of thousands all over the world is worse. And she's saying, like, oh, you can do that for, like, you can be clicking away for 15 minutes on child porn and be put away for 50 years. And it's like, I'm sorry, if you're clicking through child porn for 15 minutes, there's clearly something wrong with you. If you don't immediately see child porn and then close the tab and report it to the police, there is something genuinely wrong with you. And prison probably is not the worst place for you to go after that. I mean, my God. Oh, people are doing it for 15 minutes and going away for 50 years. Yeah. You shouldn't even be seeing it for more than 5 seconds. So a very strange argument there, I have to say. And of course, this is the thing to get her on, because it's a stupid thing to try and defend. So Senator Josh Hawley also had some things to add on this issue.
No one case, Senator, can stand in for a judge.
I'm not asking you that. I'm
entire
asking
record.
if you regret this sentence in this case. And it sounds like the answer is no. But I want to tell you I regret it. I regret that you gave him only 3 months.
Yeah, really good thing to get them on. I mean, it's definitely true over here in Britain. If you want to get voted into Parliament, you basically just need a party called the Save the NHS and Hang the Nonces Party. I'd be surprised if over in America, hanging nonces would be an unpopular opinion. I mean, it obviously would be in places like DC and California, but let's be fair, they're not really places worth saving.
Let me read to you what you said about these kinds of cases. In fact, to this defendant, you said, make no mistake, Mr. Hawkins, the children you saw in those pictures were not willing participants in the conduct that you witnessed. They were being forced to commit unspeakable acts of sexual violence for the pleasure of the person who was filming and for the gratification of sick people everywhere, people who apparently have no shred of empathy for what this must be doing to the children who are being abused in this way. You go on. Some of the children you saw in those pictures will never have a normal adult relationship.
I mean, yeah, all true. These are all very good points. Which does beg the question, why did you only give him an eighth of the sentence that you were recommended for him? I mean, clearly what you think he did was incredibly bad. There better be a good reason for this. And so Josh Hawley goes on for quite a while reading out that transcript and has to ask the question that's on everyone's mind.
That's your words, pages 34 and 35 of the transcript. Powerful words, Judge. I just don't understand why after saying this and believing this, you could give this guy 3 months in prison when the probation office that we've heard so much about recommended 18 months. Even the probation office recommended 18 months. Do you have anything to add?
No, Senator.
It's amazing. Genuinely amazing. Just imagine having your words thrown back at you. Hey, so you think this guy was literally scum upon the earth? He from what you're saying, like that would be justified in giving him the death penalty more than likely. Like I wouldn't be surprised if she gave him the death penalty, but then it's like, oh, only 3 months and you were recommended 6 times that amount just by the probationary officers? Like, yeah. You definitely need to work on how your sentencing works. So yes, I think it's worth pointing out that in all these arguments on the child pornography cases, it has clearly been her opinion that the laws and sentencing guidelines are outdated, i.e. she is giving her comments on policy. And yet, mere minutes after commenting on all these things, she then says this.
I am particularly mindful of not speaking to policy issues because I am so committed to staying in my lane of the system, because I'm just not willing to speak to issues that are properly in the province of this body.
Yeah, so she makes a load of comments on her child pornography case and how she thinks policy is outdated and all that, but then says, "Oh, I do try and stay in my lane." No, you don't. Don't give me that. There appears to be an agenda that you have against the policy and recommendations made to you about how long people should be put in prison for seeing or distributing child pornography, both of which are serious crimes for obvious reasons. So don't try and come out after explaining all that to then say you don't like to comment on things like that, because you clearly do. But anyway, these are all just some highlights I wanted to get through from the 2 days so far of the Senate hearing for this Supreme Justice nominee. Obviously, it's mostly been Republicans criticising her. So now I'm going to show you a 6-minute clip where a Democrat senator sings her praises because she is so good at her job. Let's see what he had to say.
You're a person that is so much more than your race and gender. You're a Christian, you're a mom, you're an intellect, you love books. But for me, I'm sorry, it's hard for me not to look at you and not see my mom, not to see my cousins, one of them who had to come here and sit behind you.
I love that. You're so much more than your race and gender. You know, oh, you like books, you know, you're a mother, oh, that's good. Oh, but now I'm just going to sing praises about your skin colour and your gender. You know, you remind me of my mum. She was black. Some of my cousins are over here. They're black too. You remind me of them. Look at all these powerful black women. Like, isn't it so good? You are entirely about your race and gender. And he's getting actually emotional about this. Like, this is how much Democrats have brought into the woke orthodoxy. They feel like they're slaying some type of dragon here because they've put in someone who is relatively lenient on paedophiles but happens to be a black woman. Even though it was always going to be a black woman. He would have done this speech for any black woman that was there. That's how much he doesn't care beyond her race and gender.
She had to have your back. I see my ancestors and yours.
I do hate this as well. It's like, oh, you and me are black, we share ancestors. Might not be true. Black people came to America in many different ways, and you may not share ancestors necessarily. Because black people in the US, you know, they come in different waves, they came from all different places. You know, a lot of the slavers will have been from completely different places around Africa. It'd be quite rare, actually, for you two to share ancestors, unless you go back maybe a millennia. But this is how ridiculous racial consciousness is to me. Just, oh, we share skin colour. I see our same ancestors. If you go right back to people you can't even relate to. Like, the only people you should really be able to relate to are your family and friends. Like, you're not really going to relate to anyone 4 generations up. And if you do, it's a very abstract and probably not very accurate depiction of who that person actually is. Which is why I just prefer to focus on my immediate family and my immediate friends. And I'm not going to say to a white person, oh, I see our ancestors, isn't it gorgeous? Because that's just weird.
Nobody's going to steal the joy of that woman in the street, or the calls that I'm getting, or the texts. Nobody's going to steal that joy.
The Republicans might if she isn't confirmed. I'm not being funny.
You have earned this spot. You are worthy. You are a great American.
I mean, to be fair, she sounds like she's got experience, but I mean, it's like, it's in the back of everyone's minds, isn't it? Oh no, she was mainly chosen for her skin colour here. It was the main reason announced by President Biden. His next nominee is going to be a black woman. So she might be worthy to be there, but we will never know if she is the most worthy to be there.
Your hero is Constance Baker Motley. Mine, she has sat on my desk for my offices that I've held. She's my icon of America. Her name is Harriet Tubman.
Man, look how little her race and gender matter here. He's even saying, look, even both our idols are black women. Like, this is embarrassing how emotional he's getting over it, but, you know, I find it believable. I can believe he's this emotional about it. Because it's basically all that matters to some people. It is this woke orthodoxy. Because, quite frankly, it's a secular religion. And this is like he's witnessing a genuine miracle, even though it's really mundane. But most of this speech is really annoying and just reiterating the same point of, oh my god, you're an amazing woman. He even brings LGBT people into it and then basically says they weren't recognised till Hollywood made films with LGBT people in, which I found really weird. But then he ends up saying this. This whole speech is just really weird. I can't describe it any other way.
They're going to accuse you of this and that. Heck, in honor of your person who shares your birthday, you might be called a communist.
Now that's weird to me because for the life of me, I can't find anything significant about her birthday in communism. Her birthday is 14th of September. If someone can please tell me why that would get her called a communist, I have no idea. Like, I don't know who shares a birthday with her. Because I went through Wikipedia for births on the 14th of September, literally can't find anything to do with communism or socialism there. Someone please help me out.
But don't worry, my sister. Don't worry. God has got you. And how do I know that? Because you're here. And I know what it's taken for you to sit in that seat.
Yeah, step one was to be a black woman. It's not that impressive, dude. Not to diminish what she's done, but, well, what I mean by that is that clearly she's in that seat because she is a judge and because she has done a lot of work to try and earn her way there. But the problem is that it's been a weighted meritocracy. She wasn't put up against any white man, any black man, any white woman. She was only put up against other black women. And who knows, she might be the best. She might beat all of the white men, black men, and white women. And, I only say them. There are other races as well. But the point is that the pool's been artificially shrunk down. And he's saying, God's on your side. No, God isn't on your side. Woke ideology is on your side. That is one of the main reasons you're here, and that's going to be at the back of everyone's mind whenever they see your name from now on. Which I agree is a bad thing, but it really does devalue your place here, I'm afraid, and everyone's going to know that to some degree. Anyway, I can't be bothered going through any more of that emotional speech because it's just pure cringe. Plus we've gone over half an hour and I really didn't think it'd be that long. But anyway, there we go. Odds on her being confirmed I think are quite high because she's a black woman, and the Democrats love that. But anyway, I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's everything I had for you today. So, as usual, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.